7 Stoic Rules to Transform Your Life Overnight. Stoicism for Success, Self-Discipline and Inner Peace. Somewhere in the ruins of ancient Rome, a man who held more power than almost anyone alive sat down each night and wrote private notes to himself. He was not writing for an audience. He was not writing for glory. He was writing because he knew that without discipline, even an emperor could become a slave to his own mind. That man was Marcus Aurelius, and the notes he left behind became one of the most powerful philosophical works in human history. Today, you are going to learn the rules that men like him lived by, rules that turned weakness into strength, chaos into clarity, and ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. These are not abstract ideas locked away in dusty books. These are tools, weapons, even ones you can pick up today and start using before the sun rises tomorrow. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by your emotions, paralyzed by fear, or lost in a world that seems to be spinning faster than you can keep up with, what you are about to hear was written for you. Before we go further, if you want more of this kind of wisdom delivered straight to you, hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to this channel, and it ensures you never miss the lessons that could change the way you move through this world. Now, let's begin. Rule 1. Master what you can control, release what you cannot. The first rule the Stoics built their entire philosophy upon is also the hardest one to truly live by. Control. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who became one of the greatest philosophers in history, taught that everything in life falls into one of two categories: things within your power and things outside of it. Your thoughts, your judgments, your effort, your reactions, these belong to you completely. Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, what happened yesterday, these do not belong to you at all, no matter how much you wish they did. Most human suffering comes from confusing these two categories. We rage against traffic. We lose sleep over what a stranger said online. We replay arguments we cannot undo. Every one of these is energy spent on something we cannot change, and energy spent there is energy stolen from the one place we actually have power. Imagine for a moment two men caught in the same storm. One screams at the sky, cursing the rain, demanding the universe explain itself. The other simply opens his umbrella and keeps walking. Both are equally wet, equally inconvenienced, equally human. But only one of them arrives at his destination with his peace of mind intact. This is not about pretending hardship does not exist. Stoicism never asked anyone to be numb. It asked them to be precise about where their power actually lives. When you stop fighting the storm and start managing your umbrella, you reclaim hours, days, even years of mental energy that were previously wasted on things that never listened to you anyway. Tonight, before you sleep, try this. Write down 3 things that have been weighing on you. For each one, ask honestly, is this within my control? If it is not, practice releasing your grip on it, the way you would release a rope that was only ever burning your hands. This single shift, repeated daily, is often the first crack of light that Stoic practitioners describe when they say their life began to change. Rule 2. Treat every obstacle as fuel. There is a phrase the Stoics return to again and again: the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what stands in the way becomes the way, and that the very thing blocking our path can become the path itself. This is not motivational poster language. This is a survival strategy forged by people who faced plagues, wars, betrayal, and exile, and still found a way to rise. The modern mind tends to see obstacles as proof that something has gone wrong, that life is unfair, that we are owed an easier road. The Stoic mind sees an obstacle as raw material. Fire does not destroy a forge, it is the forge. Pressure does not destroy a diamond, it creates one. Consider the story of Seneca, exiled from Rome to a remote island, stripped of his status, his friends, his comfort. Most men would have crumbled. Instead, Seneca used the isolation to write some of the most enduring philosophical letters in human history. The very exile meant to break him became the quiet room in which his greatest work was born. This is the Stoic transformation in action. Not the absence of difficulty, but the conversion of difficulty into material you can build with. The next time life places a wall in front of you, resist the urge to ask why this is happening to you. Instead, ask what this obstacle is making possible. A job loss might be forcing you toward work that actually fits who you are. A broken relationship might be teaching you what you will no longer tolerate. A failure might be the only teacher capable of showing you what success actually requires. The obstacle does not vanish when you reframe it, but your relationship to it changes completely, and that change is often the exact thing required to move through it with strength instead of despair. Rule 3. Train your mind like you train your body. Most people understand intuitively that physical strength requires repetition. Nobody expects to walk into a gym once and walk out transformed. Yet when it comes to the mind, we expect peace, discipline, and resilience to simply appear without practice. The Stoics rejected this completely. They treated philosophy as a daily training regimen, not a one-time revelation. Marcus Aurelius did not become calm because he read a single book. He became calm because every single night, he sat down and reviewed his actions, his reactions, and his failures, refining his character the way a blacksmith refines steel, through repeated, deliberate heat and pressure. This daily practice took many forms among the Stoics. Some practiced negative visualization, briefly imagining the loss of everything they valued, their health, their comfort, the people they love, not to become morbid, but to dissolve the numbness that comfort creates and restore gratitude for what they already had. Others practiced voluntary discomfort, choosing to go without food for a day, sleep on the floor, or wear simple clothing, deliberately training themselves to remain unshaken by the loss of luxury, because a man who can be comfortable with little can never be controlled by the fear of losing much. If you want the calm of a Stoic, you cannot simply wish for it, you have to train for it daily, the same way an athlete trains for a competition they have not yet entered. Begin with 5 minutes each morning. Sit with your thoughts before you reach for your phone. Ask yourself what kind of person you want to be today, and what specific situation might test that intention. This is not meditation for relaxation alone, it is rehearsal for the version of yourself you are trying to become. Repeated daily, this rehearsal slowly hardens into identity, and identity, once forged, becomes nearly impossible to shake. Before we move into the next rule, take a moment to subscribe if you have not already. This channel exists to keep delivering these lessons to you, consistently and without distraction, and your subscription is what allows that to continue. Now, let's go deeper. Rule 4. Speak and act with integrity, even when no one is watching. The Stoics placed enormous weight on what they called virtue, and at the center of virtue sits integrity, the alignment between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. In a world saturated with performance, where so much of life is lived for an audience, this rule cuts directly against the grain. The Stoics asked a deceptively simple question: who are you when no one can see you? Epictetus taught that character is not what you display to others, but what remains constant whether or not anyone is watching at all. This is harder than it sounds. It is easy to be patient when someone is filming you. It is easy to be generous when generosity will be praised. The true test of Stoic character comes in the empty room. The moment when you could cut a corner and no one would ever know. The moment when you could lie and the lie would cost you nothing. The moment when you could quit and call it reasonable. Integrity is built in exactly these invisible moments, brick by brick, until eventually it becomes load-bearing for your entire identity. There is a quiet power in this kind of consistency. People sense it, even if they cannot articulate why. A person whose word matches their actions becomes someone others can build trust around, because trust is simply the accumulated evidence of consistency over time. The Stoics believed that this kind of integrity was not just morally superior, it was strategically superior. A man who lies is forced to remember every lie. A man who speaks the truth never has to remember anything at all, because his words and his reality are the same thing. Begin practicing this today in the smallest possible ways. Keep the promises you make to yourself before worrying about the promises you make to others. If you say you will wake up early, even when no one will applaud you for it. If you say you will finish the task, finish it, even when cutting it short would be invisible to everyone but you. These tiny private victories compound into the unshakable self-respect that the Stoics considered the true foundation of a well-lived life. Rule 5. Accept the impermanence of all things. One of the most sobering and ultimately liberating Stoic teachings concerns impermanence. The Stoics meditated constantly on the fact that everything fades: relationships, health, status, even life itself. This was not meant to produce despair. It was meant to produce clarity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often that he, too, would die, not to frighten himself, but to strip away the illusions of permanence that cause people to waste their finite years on things that ultimately do not matter. When you truly understand that nothing lasts, your relationship with the present moment changes entirely. The argument you are having suddenly seems smaller. The grudge you are holding suddenly feels heavier than it is worth. The achievement you are chasing gets weighed honestly against the question of whether it will matter on your final day. This is not nihilism. It is the opposite of nihilism. Because nothing lasts forever, what you do with your limited time becomes the only thing that actually matters, and that realization can jolt a person out of years of drifting through life on autopilot. The Stoics also applied this teaching to loss. When something or someone you loved is taken from you, Stoic philosophy does not ask you to suppress your grief. It asks you to recognize that everything you hold was always on loan from a universe that owes you nothing and gives you everything as a gift, not as a guarantee. This reframing does not eliminate pain, but it transforms entitlement into gratitude. Instead of asking why this was taken from me, the Stoic asks how fortunate I was to have it at all. Try this practice the next time you find yourself anxious about losing something, a relationship, a job, your youth, your health. Instead of clinging tighter, which only deepens the fear, practice silently thanking the thing for the time it gave you, while you still have it. This single shift in posture, from grasping to gratitude, is one of the most powerful tools the Stoics left behind, and it is available to you the very next time fear of loss tightens its grip on your chest. Rule 6. Respond, never react. There is a difference between a reaction and a response, and almost the entire architecture of Stoic emotional discipline is built on understanding that difference. A reaction is automatic, immediate, and unconscious, your nervous system firing before your mind has had a chance to evaluate what is actually happening. A response is deliberate. It involves a pause, however brief, in which you choose how to engage with what life has handed you. The Stoics believed that this pause was the single most important space a human being could cultivate, because within that pause lives all of your freedom. Epictetus taught that it is never events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about those events. Two people can receive the exact same piece of criticism. One collapses into days of self-doubt, the other shrugs, extracts the useful information, and moves forward unshaken. The event was identical. The internal judgment was not. This means that the disturbance you feel is rarely coming from the world. It is coming from the story you are telling yourself about the world, and stories, unlike events, can be rewritten. Building this pause takes deliberate practice. The next time something triggers anger, frustration, or anxiety, try counting to 5 before you speak or act. In that brief window, ask yourself a single question. Is this reaction serving the person I am trying to become, or is it simply discharging tension because tension is uncomfortable to hold? This pause will feel unnatural at first, almost unbearably slow. But with repetition, it becomes instinct, and once it becomes instinct, you gain something most people never acquire: the ability to remain the author of your own behavior, even in the middle of chaos. This rule alone has the power to transform careers, relationships, and health, because so much human damage is done in the heat of unexamined reaction. Words said in anger that cannot be unsaid. Decisions made in panic that cannot be undone. The Stoic does not eliminate emotion. The Stoic simply refuses to let raw emotion drive the car, choosing instead to feel it fully while still keeping a steady hand on the wheel. Rule 7. Live each day as a complete life. The final rule is perhaps the most radical, because it asks you to change your relationship with time itself. The Stoics taught that each day should be approached as though it were a complete life in miniature, with its own beginning, its own struggles, its own small victories, and its own peaceful ending. Seneca warned repeatedly against the habit of postponing real living until some future point, until the promotion arrives, until the relationship improves, until the conditions are perfect. He observed that this kind of waiting quietly consumes entire lives, because the future, when it finally arrives, simply becomes another present moment, and the postponement begins all over again. To live each day as a complete life means bringing full presence and full effort into today, rather than treating it as a rehearsal for a future that may never come. It means resolving conflicts before the sun sets rather than carrying them forward indefinitely. It means expressing gratitude today rather than assuming there will always be a tomorrow to do it in. The Stoics were not being morbid when they meditated on mortality, they were being practical. Death does not announce itself in advance. The only guarantee any person has ever had is the day currently in front of them. This rule also reshapes ambition. Instead of measuring your life only by distant outcomes, the goal 5 years away, the version of yourself you hope to become eventually, you begin measuring it by the quality of your days, one at a time. Did you act with integrity today? Did you respond rather than react today? Did you train your mind today? Did you release what you could not control today? Stack enough days like that together, and the distant goals tend to arrive almost as a byproduct, because a life built from disciplined, intentional days naturally bends toward the outcomes that scattered, reactive days never could. Tonight, before you close your eyes, try closing the day the way the Stoics did. Ask yourself honestly where you fell short, without cruelty, simply with clarity. Ask where you succeeded, and let yourself feel proud of it. Then release the day completely, the way you would release a held breath, and let tomorrow begin as its own complete life, untangled from the weight of yesterday. Bringing the 7 rules together. What makes Stoicism endure across more than 2,000 years is not that it promises an easy life. It promises something far more valuable, an unshakable one. The 7 rules you have just learned were not designed for emperors and philosophers alone. They were designed for anyone willing to do the quiet, unglamorous work of mastering their own mind. Master what you can control. Treat every obstacle as fuel. Train your mind daily. Act with integrity when no one is watching. Accept the impermanence of all things. Respond instead of reacting. Live each day as a complete life. None of these rules require money, status, or perfect circumstances. They require only your willingness to practice them, starting today, starting with the very next moment you face. If something in this video moved you, if even one of these rules struck a nerve you did not expect, that is exactly the kind of shift that real transformation begins with. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the next set of lessons drawn from the wisest minds in human history. We are building a community here of people who refuse to drift through life unconsciously, who choose discipline over comfort, and clarity over chaos. Every subscriber, every view, every share helps this message reach someone who may need it exactly as much as you did today. Thank you for spending this time with these ideas. Carry them with you, practice them daily, and let them quietly transform the way you move through this world, starting tonight.